Oh, it's not. Call the meeting in order. The agenda Oromocto Council Committee meeting Tuesday, September 16, 2025 at 5:35 PM at the Oromocto Municipal Building. I'll call for a mover for approval of the agenda. Councilor Kirkbride, seconder, Councilor Carr. Questions? All in favor? Contrary, motion carried. We'll move down to presentations, and Dallas Gillis, Director of Planning and Compliance Department, is gonna start her off.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I'm really just gonna tee up Jacob and Darian here from Fathom Studios in Halifax, who are gonna come give us a brief update on the municipal plan project so far. So hopefully through the magic of technology, they're able to join us virtually here from Halifax. And I'll turn it over to these guys. So can you hear us, great gentlemen?
Yeah, can you hear me all right?
Little quiet, but maybe we can turn you up in the room here. Yep.
Yeah, I'll keep yapping if you need me to keep talking while you turn the volume up.
Yeah, this
Um,
time, we've been, maybe sing a few bars for us.
hey, I will say as you're doing that, I can't see you folks. I can see in an image, but it appears to be frozen. Um, I can see four people, but this is it's a frozen image of what the camera was recording earlier. So I'm not sure if you changed cameras or what, but I can hear you at least.
You can hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just can't quite see anybody moving.
I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to solve the camera issue, but if you can hear us.
Yeah, not that big of a deal. We'll do just fine with just being able to hear you. Oh, there we go. I can see myself actually on the screen.
There we go.
Yeah,
Looks like we're moving now.
Wow. Okay, so just my big head in this room with all you folks. Oh, but it's good to see your faces now. And I see Jacob's joined us. But yeah, you want us to just jump right into it?
Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Of course, yeah. Jacob, do you want to take it away? I think you might be muted, Jacob. I can't quite hear you.
Now.
There we go.
All right, folks. Hi, everyone. My name is Jacob Ritchie. I work at Fathom with Darian and Rob LeBlanc. Dallas has been working with us for a few months as we've got started on this project, or as I've got started on it. I joined Fathom just at the start of the summer. So I'm picking up, haven't been involved in some of the earlier stuff on this project, but have been very involved in the last few months as we've moved into drafting. I myself have a background in municipal planning here in Nova Scotia and have come into consulting with a little bit of municipal experience as well as private development experience. So I've done projects like this before, and I'm excited to meet you all tonight. But we're going to let Darian start off the presentation. I want to share my screen. Oh, if you'll bear with me. Darian, can you share your screen with the file? I actually am struggling to do that tonight.
Yeah, for sure. Just give me
Thank
one
you.
second. We'll get that up. Share and okay. Can you folks see that all right? Ooh, I'm ahead of myself in here.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, yeah. So we'll get started. Yeah, like Jacob said, excited to be here tonight. I'm Darren Chakraini, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a fellow New Brunswicker. I'm down from Moncton, but working with Fathom and working on the Oromocto project for a few months now, alongside Rob and my colleague Ruby as well. So tonight we're going to give you just a bit of an overview on the municipal plan review and the progress that we have completed to date. So getting into the background work, the mapping and research that went into informing our engagement program, the public engagement program itself, and the results of that, the work on the municipal plan to date, and then the steps that'll be following this meeting tonight. If you have any questions throughout the meeting, feel free to interject at any moment. We'll be happy to answer those. So yeah, as a bit of a background, we began this process as we normally do by doing our fact finding and our research on the town. So I started with a demographic analysis that we had assembled prior to getting any work going, so looking at census data for both the former town of Oromocto and Lincoln pre-amalgamation, as well as any available documentation that we had aimed at demographics. So the housing needs assessment was one of those. that helped inform our research there, and using this data to compile trends and estimates and projections that will inform the policies of the reviewed municipal plan. At the same time, we collaborated with the town's GIS analysts as well as, source data from the province to establish our background mapping. This mapping is very key when doing these large-scale municipal planning initiatives. So we started this early to ensure we had a good base for doing our geospatial analyses, and to inform future land use planning activities like establishing the generalized future land use map as a part of this this project. We also did a site visit prior to the main engagement program towards the end of April. So I was up there with Jim Scott from Trace Consulting, who led the main engagement program. I think you all would have met him at some point. And so did fact finding around the town, visiting, the main areas that were coming up during interviews with those preliminary stakeholders, going to the riverfront, going to Rusty Goose Road, seeing Oromocto West, and all these, kind of key areas that continued to pop up in our initial analyses. As the project moved on and we started getting ready for the public engagement program, we began an advertisement campaign to get word out within the public. This was really key as you want to build up the excitement and anticipation for these projects and for these engagement sessions before they happen, because something's worse than doing a session and having no one show up. And so we had a pretty comprehensive round of posts that went out on the town's social media, which were viewed by residents and also had, comments and other forms of engagement posted to these social media platforms. There's also links from these to the online survey that was open throughout the engagement period, as well as key information on both the municipal plan update itself and opportunities to get involved through public workshops. This led into the full engagement program for this first phase of the project, in which a number of different stakeholders were engaged, including elected officials, municipal departments, members of the public, community organizations, developers, and those who attended the open house sessions. There were multiple open house sessions, one being within the town of Oromocto, and then one in the former Lincoln LSD, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, the online survey and the stakeholder interviews. So you can see here some images, top left and bottom right being from the Oromocto open house, the middle two being from the Lincoln open house, and then the top right being from a specialized stakeholder session with some youth in Oromocto. And so there was some key insights that we were pulling out from these engagement sessions. So there was, strong support for diverse housing options in the Oromocto. People wanted to see smaller homes, townhouses, senior homes, especially, with a real kind of focus on affordability. There's also a high value placed on parks and green spaces in Oromocto. We continually heard that people really valued the wetlands, the riverfront, and these recreation and community building spaces that people gather at. There were some concerns raised about sidewalks, other pieces of infrastructure that are aging, and accessibility within the town. That was a theme that was voiced quite frequently. And then just a general request as well for more services, so more restaurants, retail, recreation facilities, and community facilities within the town. Speaking of this youth engagement session to up here in the top right, young people in Oromocto were targeted as a priority stakeholder throughout this process, as a voice that's often omitted from municipal planning initiatives. And so there was a special interest placed on getting their feedback and their thoughts. And so there was also a poster contest that accompanied this engagement program, in which young people in the town were asked to submit a poster highlighting how they value, protect, and interact with Oromocto's natural environment. There were nearly 50 submissions from young people, and 8 winners eventually awarded, and they were given prizes to help encourage them to be active within the community. So there was e-bikes and scooters that were part of them, smartwatches, but a lot of excitement and participation from this program as well. And so from this entire engagement, first round of engagement, there were 6 main themes that were pulled out that will be influencing the creation of the draft municipal plan, and that is community engagement and awareness, environmental stewardship, balanced and thoughtful growth, community gathering and connectivity, infrastructure needs and economic development, and social infrastructure and services. These 6 themes really covered the basis of all of the feedback that we received from the public, from stakeholders, from other groups during the engagement, and this is the kind of guiding the main updates to the plan that we're seeing going forward. So I'll pass it off to Jacob to talk a bit more about the updated plan and the work that's been done so far.
Thanks, Darian. Really appreciate that. So As you know, we're not starting from scratch. Oromocto has a municipal plan that has been in place, and Lincoln had the rural plan over their area. So we are building from that. I wanted to put on the screen the plan vision from Oromocto. Town council will seek to encourage demographic, social, and economic growth, at the same time enhance the natural and cultural features that define the community by ensuring the future development will enhance the quality of life. For us, we want to build on this. We want to understand and reflect, does this actually still work now that the boundaries have changed, that Lincoln's in there? We want to make sure that we're bringing something new that actually represents the new town of Oromocto, and the integration of Lincoln into that as well. But we are not starting from scratch because we have the vision from the rural plan and the Oromocto plan. So I did just want to make that clear to council, that we're building on this. The vision of both can come together and meld together, and that's really when we start to write our policies. So when we do write our policies, can you shift the slide for me, Darian? We're really focusing on cleaning up and organizing. Rural plans are very clean in Nova Scotia, or sorry, in New Brunswick. But the Oromocto plan that's currently enforced is a very large document with a lot of historical context, a lot of front end material, a lot about how the town was first planned. And we know that we don't really need that in municipal plan. So we're actually cleaning up, organizing, and making sure when this plan starts, you understand why you're reading it. This isn't a history document. It's really about the future, and it's about what do we need to regulate and legislate in this region to make sure we achieve our vision. We know there's great change going on across New Brunswick and within Oromocto, especially since 2015, and we know there's potential for further growth, and we want to make sure we're ready for that. So a big part of this policy set that we're writing is how to deal with change to make sure that we're not affecting quality of life for those who have made their lives in Oromocto and Lincoln over the past 20, 30 years, that they can continue to live the same way, and we don't come in with all this change all at once. We're modernizing. We're putting forward-thinking policies and ideas in here that really match what we heard when we did the consultation, so that we're putting policies in place that are thinking about some of what you guys may be encountering over the next 5-year period. And then finally, we're again, this kind of matches with cleaning and organizing. We're focused on utility. We just want to make sure that this is an efficient and effective tool to implement the land use plans, and that everyone from council to developers to other orders of government all can read this document and know why they're reading it. We don't want people to get lost in here. We want people to understand exactly why this exists and what we're putting it in place for. Darian, do you want to flip the slide for me? Thanks. So to date, we've worked with your brand guidelines that you had adopted, and we've put together an attractive and useful document. Lots of good graphics to help people understand what they're reading. Through the first 2 chapters that we've been through with the town, it's really setting it up so that we can get quickly into the policy, but again, so that people know what they're looking at. So we just wanted to focus a bit on that. We've been in this front end. We've used your templates and your brand guidelines. We've created an attractive document that we think is going to be very legible and very understandable by everyone who uses it. And we've started to dig into all the policies and start to write the meat of the document now. So Darian, the next steps for us, we are in this stage where we're drafting plan policies, the meat of it, really what do we need to achieve and what are we setting up in regulation. When we're done drafting our plan policies in the next few weeks, we're going to have a draft document review with staff. Of course, we're doing all of this with engagement with Dallas and the team there, like Darian said, support from GIS. We know there's some change in that department, but we've got Dallas engaged with us throughout. And we want to make sure you guys are clear that we're doing more engagement with key stakeholders as we go through developing these policies. We had good engagement at the start of this project, but we know there are some key stakeholders who are missing, and we're going to make sure that we get in touch with them and make sure that they have a good idea of the policies are coming really at the same time and even just ahead of the public release of the draft documents, so we can make sure we don't make any mistakes or go offside of any really important stakeholders before we put this document out there. So that's where we are. We are still on track to get these materials in the fall, get them before you guys, hopefully before the end of the year. That's what the goal is, so this project can be wrapped up and done. And that's where we are today on September 16th. So with that, thanks to Darian for helping with the presentation, and thank you all for your attention. And Darian and I will take some questions now if you want to chat about this.
Questions or comments, council? Councilor Dow?
Just a question on the additional stakeholders. Could you give us an example of who we missed?
Well, I wouldn't say it's someone we've missed. It's that we know that not because the numbers are in the hundreds and you have a town of over 10,000, we know there's going to be people that come out. That's just regular practice. So we're going to work with Dallas to make sure we get that list of folks as we develop these policies. I don't have an example right off the top of my head. Perhaps staff, Dallas, you may have one, but I don't have one off the top of my head. We just want to make sure you guys know we're not going to hit people blindsided with this. We're going to make sure that we've got a good list and that we're getting this to people when we've got draft policies so they can react.
Yes, if I can, Jacob, so some of those groups would be like Chamber of Commerce or other groups like that would be around stakeholders, but as well, because when we did the open house calls, we had some people, but we didn't have enough. That sometimes when people don't know what you're doing, they just hear that something's going on, they're not coming out. We may have to throw something on the wall and let them react to it. And that's where there'll be an additional stakeholder
Okay.
interpretation to say, look, we understand that we didn't get everyone out on the front end, tell us all what you want. For whatever reason, maybe it was good weather we were competing with, I don't know. But we're gonna make sure that what we do propose is up there for people to have a chance to look at and maybe then respond to, and then build from there. Because sometimes people, they just wanna see something thrown to the wall before they react to it, so
Thanks, Dallas.
no worries.
Anyone else, Council? Nope, looks like it's okay, Jake.
I really appreciate that. And again, because I've just joined over the last few months, I am excited to come up, meet you guys in person, and spend some more time in Oromocto as we get through the next steps of this project. So thank you so much for the time today.
Great. Thank you. Okay. We'll now down to the monthly departmental reports. We'll start with the Department of Engineering Public Works. Any questions, comments, concerns? None? Okay. We'll move to the Department of Corporate Services. Any questions, comments, or concerns, council? No? Okay. Department of Human Resources? None? I just have one question. That's the fit for duty to replace the substance abuse. Can you elaborate on that, Mr.?
Yeah, so it's a policy that we're just working through with senior staff now, and so it's a bit of a modernized version that encapsulates a little bit more than just substance abuse, because there's many more things out there that make us perhaps not fit for duty that don't involve specific substance abuse issues. So it's really just a modernization of a policy which allows us to make sure people are coming to work and prepared to work and whatnot. And there's many things that affect people nowadays, and it isn't strictly substance abuse, and so it's being broadened for that purpose.
Any questions or comments on that, Ken? Okay. All right. We'll move to the Department of Finance. Any questions or comments? Councilor Dodd?
I had to read it first, thank you. Last month in the report, it was about the town engineer reviewing and offsetting and relocation of the expenses that were supposedly put in the wrong place. That obviously hasn't gotten done yet.
Yeah.
Number 5, no, not number 5, the stats for August report.
Oh, in terms of the
The coding and
financials.
Yeah,
I think we had moved some of those things around. Not sure specifically, but we can follow up.
because in one of the areas, there was quite an overage. And then when you looked at it, you thought perhaps that you identified it as they were putting it in a line that should be in another line, the better way of saying it.
Yes.
Wonder if that was addressed.
So I have issue with that with 31 and that. We'll confirm if all of the entries got made it through. There was some identification to move some of the, record them proper.
Okay.
What it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Work in progress, that's what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Right on. All right, anything else in that? No? Okay, we'll move to the Department of Recreation and Tourism. Councilor Carter.
Thank you, Rick. I see the stats for the VIC and there's, it's possible to see people from all over North America and even internationally coming to visit. We have some data on that. That they've done with this data. Like whenever we're collecting it, but are we collecting, are you in Oromocto stopping for a burger and a washroom break? Or are you staying? Are you aware? How did you hear about it? Why? Like this is data, but is it useful data? Like what, is there anything done with this? Or are we using the data we have here to do anything more with it to maybe boost those numbers in the future? Or find out if those dollars are flowing through, or are we just stopping in for a walk? I mean, any public, I guess.
Well,
Notoriety is great if they've stopped in, but I just don't know what is done with the data or.
we'll pass it on to Director Dan.
So staff will normally ask, what brought them in, so we do have some notes, so they didn't say, how we heard of it, so. Track of that, the numbers are just to show us that see if we're improving from last year. The past few months I've kind of compared to the past years, unfortunately, I don't think we had the numbers. Readily, and then if you ever had the opportunity for grants, then we can use those.
Oh, perfect, sure, thank you.
And to that too, we're also still working on the tourism aspect and help through the capital region, because they also have the machine to take some of our numbers and use those for our advantage as well. So we'll keep trying our best to figure out where people go, and keep working at that.
It's nice to see over almost 4,400 Facebook followers. That's a tidy number. And the Voyant alert, it's up to over 1,000 now, so that's another good sign. So
Yeah, it's your worship, it's amazing what some, critical incidents do to your numbers, right? So you can imagine that some of the concerns around wildfires were what brought that up. And unfortunately, that's the way the world works now. You try your best to say, hey, you should have this, but until they see a need for it, they don't always sign up. So yes, that is good.
yeah. All right, we'll move on to Planning and Compliance Department. Any questions, comments, or concerns, council? I just have one, and that's that I was wondering, Dallas, if there's any follow-up from the Lincoln half about the Belmont House.
Your worship, there were some discussions online on Facebook that people had played out, but there was some discussion in the media that the owners of the shelter address that people heard, and I think by and large, the discourse kind of settled itself, people understanding that the federal historic designation is honorary and there really wasn't protections, and it was up to the owners to do with the building as they did, and that the owners made clear that it wasn't their intention to knock it down, that they meant to go in there and do a kind of a more of a renovation, but it was just in such disrepair that it collapsed on them, and they didn't feel they could safely do it within budget. I've asked the councilors if they've heard, one of the councilors if they heard anything in the community today since, and there hadn't been much, but there really hasn't been a whole lot. And we had a few outreaches for some information from some local people that are really interested in archaeology and historical stuff that I've crossed paths with in the city a few times. But other than them putting out some information like the planning report, there really hasn't been anything.
Yeah, but I was only touched by about maybe 10, and they weren't concerned, they just wanted to know what the story was, and once I explained it to them, there was no issues.
Surprisingly, most of the social media I saw, you follow the thread down, you get answered by the next person or the next person, and there wasn't a lot of unanswered questions at the end of it, so.
Yeah.
I haven't really heard much.
All right, anything else for planning and compliance? None? The Oromocto Fire Department. Questions, comments, or concerns? Okay.
Thank you, I just want to say, Ryan and I attended the one in Lincoln, the Fire Smart presentation, went very well. Lots of good comments from folks, and it was funny because the kids were lining up to go on the fire truck to get toured. And Jody said, well, no, you can't go on that one, guys, in case we need it. And you go on this one, and they just got on the other one, and they got a call, wait, they weren't, so. They would have a few extra temporary firefighters.
Few extra volunteers.
Well done, the young student that did the presentation did a very good job, and, you know, I think it was, you know, nice we would have had 200 people there, but again, you know, most people have, what do you mean, I gotta clean up around my house, what are you talking about? Don't you guys do that? Like, what do you mean me? Like, other than that, it was well done.
And I've seen the comment here about they received several calls requiring residents burning when there was a no burn. That's pretty sad when they're still at it. I mean,
Yeah, our friends at 85 Garden Grove were back and they were just setting off fireworks,
you're kidding.
so they were. It was well reported though.
So, okay, we'll move on to the Department of the Clerk's Office. Any comments or questions? Nope. All right. Now go down to administration. We'll start with 5A, the Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership Program, 28 to 2030. And Dave, you have, yeah.
Good evening, Your Worship. The Provincial Municipal Highway Partnership Program, it's a program with the provincial government and the municipalities over provincially run roadways that run through municipalities. It's an arrangement to find funding between the province and the municipalities. In this case, the province provided like 75% of the cost, and the municipality pays 25%. Seems like every year they revise the plan. We've done a 4-year plan, 5-year plan.
No.
So the priority that we're providing is the same priority we had before. We're just bumping the years from keep the priorities consistent, but now it's between years of 2028 and 2030. So with the plan, revise some of the cost and values, this current day cost, and added some percentage increase for subsequent years. So as part of the application process, you have to have a resolution from council to approve the plan. Then there's an application due date, I think it's the end of this month. Yeah. So basically, is recommended the council approve the provincial highway plan 3-year plan rather than as is. This plan also sets out funding expectations to be budgeted for increased use of festival implementation.
Questions or comments, council? Warm and fuzzy? All right.
That's it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Move to 5B, the recognition of the Stone Gateway Trails and Ducks Unlimited with recreation tourism. Jackie Knapp.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you, I submitted a request for decision regarding a request we received from Ducks Unlimited Canada to install a recognition stone and bench on the Gateway Trail to acknowledge the role that their national director Kevin Harris played in advancing the wetland project in Oromocto. They've recommended near the end of the covered bridge. In this request for decision, I have not really put forward a recommendation on my end because I was not involved with this at the time. So I'm not really sure of Mr. Harris's involvement in this project. Perhaps members of council may remember Mr. Harris or staff. However, I did provide two options. One would be to obviously the council could decide against the request. The second would be for council to approve the request to install one or both of their items. I will say that Mr. Harding, who submitted the request, said that they would come in or provide more information to council or to come and present about Mr. Harris's involvement. I just thought I'd first see what council's feeling is on this request.
Questions, comments, council? Councilman Victor?
Like yours, I don't see any issues with approving the request, and it's pretty reasonable to me.
Councilor Dahl?
So, thank you, Your Honor. So this goes along the lines of the, we had a request to put a sign up to honor somebody else that was in the Rotary or something.
Ed Gill.
Um,
Ed
Ed-
Gill.
It was
Yeah.
Crime Stoppers.
Yeah, did that, and that got done,
That was done, yes.
and, but we don't have to do any follow-up to that or take care of anything in that particular one?
What I did in that case is, in my response, in my email, I made it clear that any, repairs, would be on the, cost of, Crime Stoppers and not the town. And we felt that it had to be taken down for any reason that we had the right to do that, right?
And that's what you've written in here as
Exactly.
well. I like those stone benches. But, as long as it's tasteful and fits in with the look of the gateway, if that's where they're putting it, isn't it, over the gateway?
That's right, yeah, I believe, I included a couple photos of like some examples there, they were just looking to put, I think, the EU flag on the bench and saying thank you for your service or your commitment, for involvement with the project, for Mr. Harris.
Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Richard. I also think I have no issues with it whatsoever. I think it adds to the area. I think having more area to sit is also nice. I think adding more information into the gateway wetland. It didn't just come about in a day. And there were many, many people who had their hand in it, many people who contributed. And the fact, I like the different conditions that we had set at the end of our memo there. And I think that gives us the ability to rectify any issues if they do creep up, if it becomes unsightly or breaks apart or something, we can remove it. So I'm fully in favor.
So it's warm and fuzzy, council? Righty. Thank you, Victor. 5C, the program funding approval of Sear Street Extension. Peter, do you have that? All right.
Mayor, councilors, this one is fairly straightforward. We've some of the information's on the RFP. Quickly, just we had a background of applying for some federal funding and then eventually provincial funding. We have been approved as part of the administrative processing. It's looking for us to have a resolution to enter into this contribution agreement. And that and allow the CAO to enter the agreement, signing agreement on behalf of the town, so that it's the RFP is looking for you guys to give us the okay to continue with the process.
Questions or comments? Warm and fuzzy? Alrighty. Thanks, Pete. We'll do the 5D, the salary and expensive bylaw, and Cindy, you have that?
Thanks, your worship. This is just a follow-up to our discussion that we had last month related to this topic. And just looking at a few options here, and I'm just seeking some direction from council in order to proceed. So as you know, we currently have a bylaw that we're looking at reviewing it. And within that, we're looking at a couple of options, either to repeal the section that completely eliminates the citizens committee review, that aspect of it. The other is to repeal and replace the section 2 related to the review with a new title that would be the salary adjustment that would be in line with our current salary adjustment practice of using the CPI. We've been doing that since 2023. And then the other is to just stay the course and establish a chair and then have them conduct a complete review of the citizens committee. So what I'm seeking from council is just some direction on how you'd like to proceed with this prior to the next election. So none of this would come into effect until that.
Right.
So if we're going to start the bylaw amendments, we would need the 3 readings and go through that process. So we'd probably start that this fall.
Councillor Dow?
Thank you, Worship. Having sat on one of those citizens committee before coming into council, and I'm in favor of number 2. The practice that we're doing now seems to be working. If it gets to a point where it's not, then we can make the adjustments or form something then. I don't think it needs to be in the bylaw to do that. Otherwise, we're stuck with that. And one of the reasons that I'm not sure that we need a citizens committee is I believe in the beginning, it was so that you could have somebody outside looking at what they thought was fair. But personally, I thought if you don't have all the information, you don't know what's going on, how do you make that decision? And I sat there asking some of the questions and they couldn't answer it, right? And I'm sure what questions that we asked, they had to get from you anyway. So I'm in favor of the 2.
Any other questions or comments? So how does council feel of number 2? Councillor Wonder.
I agree with Councillor Dobbin. Where the low end of the scale looks like right now as far as salary goes. Using this CPI will keep it in the low end. There's nothing wrong. Yeah, I think that's one of those lists that you want to be on the lower end, not the higher end. I think that makes more sense and you don't need to be the highest paid. I certainly feel the compensation is more than adequate. So yeah, I believe number 2 is the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's warm and fuzzy. It's no or not, so I totally agree too. So number 2 it is.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. We'll start the bylaw amendment for next month. That process.
Right. And the last one, 5E, the draft minutes of the 21st of August, 2025 regular session. They're before you. Any errors or omissions, please let Cynthia know as soon as possible. So on that note, I'll call for a mover for an adjournment. Councillor Daw, seconder, Deputy Mayor Mawhinney. Questions? In favor? Contrary? Motion carried. 5-minute break and we'll
Possibly be any error if it was only like